In this lesson, we'll talk about the legal use of force. Life is full of disagreements and confrontations. For the most part, we just talk it out and everyone goes home happy. But sometimes people get angry, and sometimes anger turns violent. Sometimes there's no anger, but just a selfish desire to steal from or harm other people. In an earlier lesson, we talked about personal protection and how to diffuse confrontations and protect yourself. Now, we're going to talk about what you can do when that didn't work. We'll talk about using force to defend property and people. What are the conditions that must be met to use force? And what are the consequences if you use it inappropriately? Every state has its own laws about the legal use of force. We need to know them and we're bound by them. But it's impossible for us to know every law, even in our own state, much less states we travel to. While we can't know every law, we can know the broad principles that were used in writing them. Then we can learn the specifics that apply to us. Let's look at the types of force that can be used and the rules that must be followed for them to be used. The law defines two types of force: reasonable force and deadly force. A person can use reasonable force to defend property and people. A person can only use deadly force in extreme circumstances where several conditions are met, and then only to defend people. First, reasonable force to defend property. You need to ask yourself, why even do it? Is defending this piece of property worth dying for or going to jail for? The thief can quickly turn on you, and you can be in physical danger. Also, you can very easily get into legal trouble defending property. If you do use physical force, it must be reasonable and limited. For example, if someone's taking your phone and you whack them upside the head with a baseball bat, you're going to be in big trouble. Also, never use a gun or other weapon to defend property. Next, reasonable force to defend people. You can certainly use reasonable amount of force to defend yourself or another person. The two rules that apply are: you must believe that you are under a threat, and the force that you use must be reasonable for the circumstances. You can use physical force and, in limited ways, a gun or other weapon. Well, how could you use a gun to reasonably defend people? Well, let's say that you and your kids are out for a walk and several guys cross the street and are heading toward you. You believe that you're under threat, but you can't easily retreat. So first, you put out your arms and yell, "Stop right there!" If they don't stop, you can expose your firearm. If they still don't stop, you can take out your gun and point it at the ground. But if you point it at them, you're moving into deadly force territory. And in some states, you could be charged with attempted murder. Now, let's look at deadly force. Deadly force can only be used to protect yourself or another person in extremely limited circumstances. There are 5 rules that must all be true at each moment that you are using deadly force. First, you believe that you are about to be killed or greatly harmed. You are the innocent party. Your response is reasonable based on the threat. The threat is immediate, and you cannot escape or retreat. Think of these 5 rules as links on a chain, and you're dangling in the air over state prison. How many of these links would need to break for you to fall into prison? Just one. And for how long does it need to be broken? For just 1 second. Let that sink in. If you break one of these rules for just 1 second, you're going to prison. Since they're so important, we're going to look at each one. The first rule: you believe that you are about to be killed or greatly harmed. Well, what if it turns out that the attacker's gun was really empty, or it was a toy gun that looked real? Well, that doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is that you believed that it was real. You need to be able to say, I feared for my life and I defended myself. The other part of this rule is the amount of harm that you believe you're in. Unless that you believe that you are about to die or that your injuries would be permanently disabling, you can't use deadly force. Rape also falls under this definition. Rule 2, you are the innocent party. You can't be the one to start or escalate the incident. So let's say you're in a bar and some guy bumps into you. You call him a nasty name and give him a shove. Well, he has to save face in front of his girlfriend, so he challenged you to step outside. Well, you accept, and when you get out there, he pulls a knife and, fearing for your life, you shoot him. At your trial, the prosecutor only needs to prove that you are not the innocent party to send you to prison. Rule 3, your response is reasonable based on the threat. The force that you use to defend yourself can't be greater than the force used to attack you. You can only use deadly force if deadly force is being used against you. So, what constitutes deadly force being against you? Can someone use deadly force against you with their bare hands? Does the size of the attacker matter? Does the condition of the victim matter? Well, the answer to those questions is yes. However, it's up to the prosecutor and the jury to decide how much they matter. Rule 4, the threat is immediate. In order for you to use deadly force, the violence against you must be about to happen right now. Somebody just saying verbally that they're going to kill you is not a deadly force threat. Their intent isn't enough. They must also have the opportunity and the ability to carry it out immediately. So if someone's threatening to kill you from the other side of a chain link fence and they're holding a knife, they have the intent, but they don't have the ability to carry it out immediately. However, if they're doing the same thing while pointing a gun at you, the threat would be immediate. Rule 5, you cannot escape or retreat. If you can get away, you must try. Even if your state has a stand your ground law and doesn't require retreat, getting away is a lot better than shooting someone. In states that do have duty to retreat laws, your failure to try breaks one of the links and you will go to prison. The key, though, is that you can safely retreat. You're not required to retreat to a worse situation like running across a freeway. You also are not expected to retreat and leave your grandkids behind. Well, those 5 rules that must all be met at each moment that you are using deadly force. Breaking even one of them for just a second could land you in prison. Let's talk about using deadly force to defend your home. Again, you never want to use deadly force if you don't have to. If you hear an intruder in your home, get everyone into a safe place and call the police. Don't go looking for trouble. It will find you. This brings up the castle doctrine. In states with a castle doctrine law, you cannot be charged criminally for using force, including deadly force, against an intruder in your home. States with castle doctrine laws have different definitions as to what is your castle. For some, it's just the immediate home. Others include the yard. Others include a place of business or vehicles. Well, this wraps up our lesson on the legal use of force. Again, I want to caution you about ever using force. It can change or ruin your life. Do whatever it takes to avoid using it. In the next lesson, we'll talk about the legal aftermath and what to do if you needed to use force. I'll see you there.